Hi, folks. So, oh man, yeah, it's heartbreaking for me at times to sometimes when I spend time away from the people that I know in my life, perhaps sometimes just colleagues or family members. It was the December vacation time, so we all sort of went our own separate ways for about a 3 week period or so, or something or other, and now it's sort of back to the grind, if you will, and everybody's come back from vacation, and so there's some people that I haven't seen, and some people that I would say, feel excited to see, but sometimes as colleagues, sometimes as family members, or something or other, people that I'm involved with one way or another. I don't know. Sometimes it's because we have to be involved with one another, in work or whatever it is, in living environments, etc. I don't know. And my point being is that, you know, I just, it's, I don't know, how am I trying to say this? I'm just like, I'm saddened, I would say, and despaired by seeing these people again, and being reminded of how, let's use the word, disconnected they are, and how troubled they are, and how lost they are, and how scared they are, and how they are so controlled by the mind, how they are so not free, how they are so in so much chaos. Like when I speak to some of them, their attention span doesn't last longer for 20 seconds. They have generally sort of a very negative response to, or feeling I get from them is very negative, not just about me, but just about life, just about living. They're just overwhelmed. Like I can see they don't want to think about yesterday, and they don't want to dare think about tomorrow. They don't know where to turn. They don't know where to run to. And they stuck, and they just seem like they're in so much misery. They are so trapped. Okay? There is so little light in their eyes. Okay? Not everybody, I'm saying, but the people that are close to me, like I said, that I know in my life, and I'm just bewildered. I'm because I suppose maybe with the break, the time away that we've had, I haven't seen these people, and I've been on my own journeys and on my own growth and my own deep understandings or connectedness or insights, whatever it may be, and the richness of my own existence and the potential of my own existence unfolding, and just things in life in general, the grand experience of life and the potential and promise of life with all its, despair, all of its downs, all of its ups, everything, all of its beauty, all of its ugliness, whatever it may be. And so I've, been journeying and forgotten almost where these other people were holding. Sometimes I forget when I'm not around a lot of people, because I do keep quite a bit to myself. But when I'm engaged with people again, maybe at a family function, maybe a friend of a friend, or friends having something so-called friend, I don't know, it gets complicated, and I'm there, or I'm at a restaurant and I see other people that I know, and I'm like, and I look at them, and my first feeling is that and I don't say it, I would never say it, but my first feeling that I get from them is that you do not look well. Okay, you do not look okay. You look like a fractured, broken human being. That's what I feel to myself. And, and that's just the way I feel. I don't say it, right? I would dare not say it. There's no reason for me to say it. I'm not calling them out on them. It's not a judgment like I'm trying to weigh myself up to them. I just look, and I'm like, oh my heavens, maybe, like I say, maybe I'm at a restaurant, maybe I'm at the shopping center, maybe I'm at the gas station, and I bump into someone I haven't seen for 6 months. I haven't thought about them at all, and whatever it is, could be also an extended family member, because when I mention family member, it's like, even though I might not be on the same page as my family members, they might, we might live different lives completely, and I don't have much in common with them, and I wouldn't particularly hang out with them if they weren't family, from time to time, but because they're family, there is more of a concern, and I'm impacted more when it's family members. All right, it's like hits me harder. Like when I see them, I'm like, oh goodness me, And I'm not talking about people that are in their like late 80s or 90s that have been, that are lying on their deathbeds or something like that, and their eyes are sunken in and they're brittle and frail and shaking and whatever it is, and have a sense of dementia or something, and they're confused and they're startled all the time. I'm talking about people in their late teens, 20s. Sometimes even when I see the kids, I can see they're not present. I can see they're so scattered. They're like, their minds are all over the show. They're living on 5 different TV channels at the same time, almost plugged into all these different games on their parents' cell phones, even on their own cell phones, and they're just not present. I can see just waves of energy that are coming through them, that of television, indoctrination. The way that they're speaking, the language that they use, the way that they move their bodies, and I can see it. It's like, it gets frightening, Like, I wanted to record some radio adverts from South African radio, the advertising, and because it's so pathetic, but it's so over the top. It's so dramatic. It's so like, and it makes also, some of them are so stupid. Like they just say, did you know that you can get a McDonald's burger today? Really? For like, let's say it's people having a conversation. One guy's having a conversation with a friend of his. He's like, for like, 80, let's say 25 rand. Did you know that? Did you know that? Just stop whatever you're doing now and know this, because this is the truth. This over-exaggeration, this very dramatic way of speaking, whatever, I'll try and find some adverts if I remember to do so, but I can see other people talking that way, right, in real life, 2 people to one another, okay? And so what I'm just talking about is that I suppose the more deeply I see or I know or become aware, the more I see that which is the underlying conditioning, these people, the puppets on the string. I can, the more I become aware of myself and my own unconscious, in a way I see them more so in other people. The more aware I become of my own sensitivity, the more I'm aware of the lack of sensitivity in other people. The more aware I am of my own consistency in myself. I'm aware of the more inconsistencies of others. I can see I can see my different personalities, trying to play their parts and whatever it is, and the inner conflict going on. And the more that I notice that, the more I see it in others. So it's not just that this is being revealed to me now because of my own sort of insights or growth or whatever it is. It's also that on the other side it's getting worse. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying people are becoming worse. I'm saying are becoming more inner conflicted. They're becoming more erratic. They're becoming more irrational, illogical, right? They're becoming more despaired. They're becoming more restless. They're becoming more scattered in their minds. It's just, I can see life is taking its toll on people, folks. And they're just succumbing to it. It seems like they're pinned up against the wall. Like I'm just saying, it's raining and they got no shelter to turn to, nowhere. It's like a drought. They're in the desert and it's a drought and there's just no water around to quench their thirst, in a sense. Like they are so desperate. And I see the desperation in their eyes, and I see the denial in their eyes, and I see the trepidation in their eyes, the anxiety in their eyes, and I see how hard that the ego is working to keep it all under wraps, to keep them still having that Colgate smile. I don't know if Colgate is a universal, a world global toothpaste. Used to have a Colgate, it's a toothpaste, have a Colgate smile, and I see how hard it is and what they do, and I can see how much effort and attention they put into their wardrobe. I'm saying into what they're wearing, into their makeup, into the way that they've built their bodies. I've seen how much they've attention that they've put on the external to try and make it seem like the internal is okay. And I can also see that they don't even realize how out of hand they are. You see, that's the thing. It's like they don't. For folks like ourselves, we see how dire things are in the world, and we see that they cannot continue the way that they are. But for others, they might have a hint of it. They might have an idea of it, right? But they don't. It's not. They can't comprehend it. It's not a reality in a way. It's not a reality because it's not spoken about enough. It's not everywhere on social media that people are talking about it and saying the shit's real. They're not. They're in the Colosseums, like in the Gladiator, watching all the entertainment that's going on. It's the thought of the end of the world is at the back of their minds. They can't really understand. They don't understand how dire things are. A lot of for most folk as well, there's no difference between the end of this physical world and the end of a world of a TV show that they're watching, the theme of a TV show that they're watching. They don't even know reality. That's what I'm saying. In a way, well, firstly, and also because it's not publicly spoken about, like openly spoken about. Yes, there's some bit of global warming or whatever it is. It's getting hotter, and people can see it, and people do talk about it from time to time, but they don't live it as an experience, right? That it's not a reality. It's a fiction to them, okay? Because it hasn't been declared worldwide. When it's declared worldwide, and everybody agrees, or majority agrees, then everybody can sort of jump on board. You see, that's their script that they're given, and it's not yet given. It's not this handed down script from culture and society for these people to say, okay, guys, now we focused on the end of the world, type of thing, the end of human civilization as we know it, and we can really sort of focus. No, that's not the script now. Now the script is just drama, is potential threats of world wars. Now it's about fashion and music, the whole shtick, right? That's what the script is, and so it's not mainstream. And anything that's not mainstream, the crowds are not yet ready. They're not going to be talking about it. It's not a reality in their world, right? It's not a reality in their world. And so most people are unaware of it. Anyway, so for myself, I'm just startled. I forget. Like, I think that, it's not as dire. The health of the people in my life is not, it's not so extreme. I think, I often just think they're a lot more conscious and they're a lot more awake than I actually give them credit for. Like, just as by default. I don't know if this makes sense. Just by default. Like, people surprise me all the time. I think I'm not going to be surprised. Like, I think I know, they're having so much aspartame in their diets. I mean, one thing, like, I know one guy in particular, all he drinks is these sort of, sugar-free cold, pop fizzes or drinks or cold drinks or sodas, whatever. That's just like never drinks water. And I think, okay, well, that will pretty much wreck your brain, And so I know that people are, surrounded by 5G now. I know that I would say to a large extent, I'm very well aware of how how hostile the environments that the people live in, and how toxic and unhealthy that they are. I'm aware of it from so many levels, from the foods that they eat to whatever they put in their mouth, really, to all the perfumes that they wear and the makeups and whatever it is. The environment's everything. Right, they're from their cell phones, from social medias. I've studied this a long time, and so I should be not surprised anymore, but how zombified people are. But yet, when I'm talking to them and I'm reflecting on what they're saying or trying to understand what they're saying or being in presence with them, I'm like, you just said something that I could never imagine you have said, or you are just, the energy that's coming off you is so low that I could never imagine an energy that's possible of being so low, if that makes sense. Like I would have never, I just, if I see an old school friend that maybe I saw him 6 months ago, now I see him again today, and I'm like, man, like the last time I saw your energy was low, but now, oh, it's absolutely rock. I mean, I wouldn't say this, of course, but it's absolutely rock bottom. It's rock bottom, to the degree of which it makes me feel anxious. And I think you folks know what I'm talking about. Where you come across this. Maybe you went home for family. You had some family time around the Christmas, season. You hadn't seen your family for some time, and you sat around them. You sat with them, and maybe it was with your brothers or your sisters and your nieces and your nephews, and you were just gobsmacked. You were like, okay, I haven't seen you guys for a while, but I didn't think it was like this. Maybe some of you were pleasantly surprised. I would sincerely hope so. That maybe it wasn't like that. Maybe you were surprised by their growth, maybe their awareness, their lack of their present. I mean, their ability to be present, the wise and interesting discussions that you had, riveting, the amount of love that was shared and support and kind gestures and that were offered over the Christmas table or whatever it is. There was some fond memories discussed. You caught up with one another on how the year has been, and the lessons that you've learned, and the mistakes that you've made, and the people that you've met that changed your life, and the people's lives that you have changed, and how far you've come and how far they have come, and how you're so excited and for the potential of 2019 and what it can bring, and how much growth is available for you, type of thing. How high can we fly? If you did, well, that's brilliant. I don't know what to say about that. I'm jealous. I'm very envious of you, but I'm sure for most folk it wasn't like that. It wasn't like that. You sat around the Christmas time, if you did go to some family or they came to you or whatever it is, and it was dismal. You couldn't wait to get away. You were like, I would have been actually much better in my ignorance of not seeing where you people are holding than that I feel now by actually witnessing and observing where you are currently, where you are at. You know what I mean? It's like out of sight, out of mind, man. Out of sight, out of mind. I don't want to know. I don't want to hear. I don't want to have to see. You do you, and I'll do me, basically. Because it's just too darn heart sore, in a way. It's just too darn depressing. It's like, folks, because that's another thing is that and I'll end off on this really, but like, in one's own life, you're refining yourself, you're polishing yourself, you're sharpening who you are, whatever it is. You know what I mean, right? You're appreciating more. You're taking less for granted. You're in touch more with the mystery and the opportunity of life, with synchronicity, right? You've seen how you've been blessed in your own way. You've seen, how much you've traveled, and you see how much before you were holding yourself back. You see how much unnecessary pain you were causing yourself. You see more your destructive ways. You saw how much more your heart was closed. You see how much more you were blaming yourself and others, just to sort of not feel, right? You've embraced yourself more. You loved yourself more. You've been patient with yourself more. You've taken the time for yourself. You've practiced meditation. Right? You've studied the arts of philosophy, psychology, spirituality, existentialism, whatever it is. You spend hours and hours and days and months, and you've grown exponentially, and you find the reward of who you become and who you are, And you find a sense of contentment with that, and a sense of almost sometimes bliss, sometimes a sense of just deep, profound reward and validity, you know. And you see the magic of your story. And then you look upon others, you know, and you just realize how far you are from that person who's not journeying at all, who's taken so much for granted, who believes in fairy tales, right? Who trusts dodgy and dangerous people, who takes advice from celebrities, you know, who spends their life force in over-consuming, right? Distracted, and self-sabotage, self-destruction, self-murdering, you know. And you realize, you say, we're not just worlds apart, well, we're dimensions apart. We are dimensions apart. And this, who could be sitting, you know, across from you from the Christmas table, could be your very parent, your very brother or sister, your very niece or nephew, in a way, depending on how old you are. I'm saying, if they're grown up, even if they're young as well. But, you know, there's still time for them to change, if they're younger, at least to some degree. Then you look around the Christmas table and everybody's doing their thing, let's just say hypothetically, and you feel like the only person left in the world who still resembles what it feels like to be present, to be engaged with life, not to be caught up in the whole circus affair that's going on. And so you feel accomplished, but also you feel so lonely. For some of you, you feel so lonely, you know. And then you realize that no matter how much you've grown and how much you've developed, I mean, I'm speaking personally, that you realize the people in your life will never appreciate, will never really understand. I'm speaking for myself, and maybe for some others out there as well, but that they'll never really be able to appreciate and understand how far you've come, and what you've turned yourself into, and what you're continuously turning yourself into, and how you are unfolding, and what jewels you have to share with them, what priceless wisdom that you have to share, and lessons of life you have to share with them, and how much you've endured, how much struggle you've had to put up with, how much laboring you've had to do, how many dark nights of the soul you've had to go through, in order to find the gems, right? In order to connect with the heart and the spirit and the divine. How much you've had to delete in your life and let go of, how much you've had to burn away and let die off in such a painful degree. And then you realize that the person sitting next to you will never understand, well, not never, but most likely never understand or appreciate or recognize who is sitting in front of them. And it's not just Aaron that's sitting in front of them, or Dan that's sitting in front of them, or David, or Wendy. It's the soul manifested, if you will. And yet they are blind to see. And so I know for the challenge for myself is to not sell myself out, to not become like them, to not let where they're holding their despair, their situation, to come into my existence, for me not to regress, because I was once like them, and I know that if I hang around the toxicity, it's like contagious. And I know if I hang around these people long enough, that I'll become like them. Or I'll get such a severe broken heart that I don't even know how I'll put the pieces back together. I become so despaired. I became so disorientated. I become so helpless, just like them. It's so contagious. I become so narcissistic like them, self-entitled like them. Right? self-abusing, I won't even see it, because being in their reality is the Maya, right? So like the time that I'm sort of keep to myself or think, contemplate, or meditation, for them I see that they take no time for that sort of activity. For them that's a waste of time. They could be replying to emails or their WhatsApp messages or updating their Facebook statuses or something or other, catching up on Netflix or something, whatever it is, or surfing the latest porn site, or whatever it may be. And so what I practice would for myself, when I look at them, would feel like it's in vain. It's like for nothing, because this is the norm. Do you know what I mean? Like that's what happens, folks, when we're around people with a very low vibration. I feel if you're not strong enough, even if you are strong enough, I think it just becomes, and I think that's it starts affecting you, because their nihilism, their lack of meaning and purpose in life rubs off on you. Of course it does, to some degree or another. It does on me. And that's what also a lot of us are feeling the pressure of the world sort of breathing down our necks, where the world is at, modernity, the advertising folk with their billboards everywhere and streaming through, on the internet, so putting an advert wherever they possibly can. People building their high skyscraper buildings and cutting down the forest and whatever, that idea to leave no stone unturned, to turn whatever they can into a parking lot, right? And you just feel like, well, where can you turn to where you don't see how the destructiveness of the human hand and mind has caused the erosion of such beauty and finesse and timelessness, and you know what I mean? So it's like the environment that you're in. I mean, they put up their cell phone towers everywhere, they've turned it into an inhospitable place, and you feel it breathing down your neck. You feel your next door neighbor who has no respect for the way that they play their music at whatever hours of the early morning or something, just the person who drives on talking on their cell phone, who's doesn't actually care that they breaking the law, or that they might injure somebody else's life or their own, or even the children in their car. If the person's taking their children in the car, they don't care. So it feels like it's encroaching on us, and the lack of care, the lack of empathy, the lack of sensitivity, the lack of sacredness, seems to just feel like it's becoming grotesque. I mean, it's been grotesque for a long time, odious, if you will. And so for ourselves, it's like, well, where do we seek shelter? As the conscious individual, as the sensitive individual, as this sort of toxicity just creeps and creeps and creeps and finds its way through every nook and cranny, Where do we and I mean, I don't know. It is what it is. We face the music. You can go within at times. You can retreat into self, retreat into the kingdom within, and trust and know that you are loved and you are taken care of, and whatever you need will be given at the right time, and that you're on the right track and you're doing beautiful work, and that you need to protect yourself and you need to respect yourself, and you need to be cautious, but not neurotic, right? But cautious, and be discerning, and be disciplined, and don't let your guard down. Don't slip up. The stakes are too high, folks. The stakes are too high. And so for myself, it's not about crawling under the bed in a fetal position and weeping until I don't know what can happen, because what is going to happen, who knows? But it's facing the music. It's knowing that you are stronger than you actually realize, and you are wiser than you actually give yourself credit for, and you have a bigger heart than you might even appreciate, which can lift you up a lot higher than all of this drama that's going on. You're creating a direct sort of connection with Source, if you will, that's forever guiding and forever present and ever aiding, you know, and you feel it more and more in your life, right? You have a direct line now, you know, to the heavens, if you will, not the, I don't know what you want to call it, right? And so you feel that, okay, I might be lonely in Plato's cave, or sitting in Plato's cave, spending a bit of time in Plato's cave, even though I don't belong here, but you know that your heart and your spirit is on a much higher dimension, and it's kept safe, you know. I don't know, folks. Yeah. What can we say? What can we do? But the times are changing. You know, a revolution is upon us. There's a deep cleansing that will take place. You know, shit's gonna change. And for the better and for the not so good. And perhaps I can do a talk on that sometime in the future as well. I'll leave you in the suspense. I probably won't even do a talk on that. I could do it now, but I see I'm going to be speaking for another maybe 20 minutes, half an hour or so. And I'm tired, folks. It's a late hour where I am. You know, got to be a bit more disciplined, get into bed at a bit, you know, earlier hour. Be kind to the body, if you will, and the mind, working together with these different components, you know, taking responsibility. Yeah, folks, so perhaps in another talk we'll chat about what's to come. I mean, not that I know what's to come, but the possibilities of what's to come and where we might find ourselves eventually, which obviously I have no idea, but just guesses. And the way I mean that is that whatever it may be, how do we prepare ourselves accordingly, if you will. But I think we've been working on that so far pretty well done, you know. Alright, so I'll end off on that for now. We'll chat soon, folks. Take care and be well.